24/7, and even washing dishes or thumbing through a magazine, I'll speak in tongues. I'll speak in another language given to me by God. Not because I'm so holy that I'm somebody, but because that's what it called for at that moment. The Lord will bring things to my mind in just a daily rush. It might be Emily Nooner, and I have prayed for you more times than I can tell you about. But to go from a person who works in the church the way she was like a slave driver, she just do anything and was always fundraising and always doing something in and around the church. She always had a job, to being the pastor's wife and to having these souls under her. And I know he's the pastor, and I pray for him as a pastor, but I really sympathize with pastor's wife because she carries a burden. Women are defined that way. Men are the doers, and the women are the burden bearers. That's just the way God designed us. And I pray for her because I knew what a flip, what a difference it was going to be in her world to take you guys under her wing as her children. Even though most of you are comparable age to her, it's still a place that she takes you, and when she prays and calls out your name, it weighs on her when you go through something, or when your child's in the hospital, her child's in the hospital, because it's just the place that she does. And so the Lord will quicken me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm washing dishes, that Sister Emily needs something, and I'll talk to him about Sister Emily, or whoever it is, or my pastor's wife, or even my husband. I've been quickened to pray for my husband in the middle of the day, and even in the middle of the night I've been woken up to prayer. Don't begrudge being woke up in the middle of the night, because somebody somewhere is depending on your communication with God. You can effectively change the world when God calls you to prayer. It is an honor to be asked by God to speak to him. I've said it for over an hour, crying and praying, and Lord, I don't know who it is. I don't know what they're going through. And I remember the phone call the next day when one of my best friends said her husband almost had an ice. He's a trucker, not an ice road trucker, but it happened to be an ice road that night. And he almost had an accident. It was about the time that the Lord had brought me to prayer. My best friend's husband, and he and I don't even spend time together. She's my best friend. But prayer needs to be made, and God honored me by waking me up. And I don't begrudge that. I'm sure there's stories in this room about how prayer pulled a person to weep or wail. I have done it and just gone and gone and gone and gone and just felt this blanket of prayer over me like a wet blanket. And it had me down, and I wasn't leaving no matter what. And I would just cry and get loud and Lord, what? And then there are times that it's not. Do not expect your prayer to be the same as Sister Susie's or Bob's or Joe's. Your prayer is your prayer, and her prayer is her prayer. When I teach children, I use a light piece of fabric, very similar to what a woman wears a veil in a wedding. And I'm always reminded of the veil of the temple. But I use that piece of fabric, and I will drape it over a child and talk about going into prayer with Jesus, that you're in a special place. And of course, I break it down on their level, so when I talk like they do, you just have to forgive me because that's how I work. But I say that Jesus calls you into that special place, and when you're with him, don't be in any hurry to leave. Because Jesus will talk to you about something, and he may speak to your heart, or he may speak to your mind. You may feel differently, or you may know something you didn't know before. And of course, that's just the way children see things. And then when I talk about the veil coming off, and I'll pull the piece of fabric off the child, that is exactly how God works in our prayer. I can be heavily burdened down with a need that I don't even know what it is, or at times I do know what it is, and I'm heavy into that prayer, and I will feel the lifting of prayer off me. If we stay 24 hours a day in prayer, we're not going to be effective to this world. We're not going to make a difference to this world. To be heavenly minded is to be no earthly good. If I stayed in prayer all day, then I'm not going to help Brother Daniel put the tin on the roof or whatever he's got going on that week. I'm not going to be effective in the grocery store when I greet that person if I just stay another hour or 2 or 5. I need to go on and meet the divine appointments that the Lord has for me and try to make a difference in this world. So when prayer lives from you, thank him. Close out in prayer. Let him know that you got this, Lord. I put it in your hands. It's yours. And just feel release. If you're in a group prayer and prayer lifts off you before it lifts off 5 other women, don't worry about it. I think that sometimes we stay and stay and stay to the point of embarrassment because you ran out of things to talk about. And it's okay to take a list. It's all right to take a list. I have told people I added you to my list, and I write their name down. That way I don't forget, because I have things that I want to talk to God about. I don't forget what they've asked me to help them to pray about. I want to talk just a second about a list. I try to keep a list for about a month. And if you will do something similar, it's a benefit to you. When I work with children, I give them a prayer list that starts off with me. And then it goes through mom and dad and teachers and Sunday school workers and pastor and all the things that we know we want them praying for. But then I leave blanks. And I do that on my prayer list. I have the blanks where I try to change out by the month. God is so awesome. He knows before I ask him. But he likes for me to ask. But he doesn't want me just to ask for that thing like I've asked, or my children have asked for a bicycle or a video game. I really, really want that. I would like to have that. Mom, if next time you get to that store, and God doesn't need that. He doesn't need that kind of reminder. If we go to him regularly for that lost soul, that's wonderful. That's great. And that should be done. But it shouldn't be the first words out of our mouth every prayer, because he does know. And Hezekiah, when he was told that it was his time, he turned his face to the wall and he reminded God. So that's a good thing to do, is to remind God, but not in a way that we are just begging. My will, my will, my will. It just needs to be to a place where we bring things before the Lord and we say, oh, and this one's still lost, and I want you to save them. Or I want you, and commissioning angels is a beautiful thing. There are angels right now where we stand here today, there are angels that are waiting to go somewhere, to do a job. They stand in attention waiting, and if we will commission them to do that, to do whatever job that we want them to do, and I commission angels all the time. Father, send an angel to them to minister to their heart. If someone has a lost loved one or been in an accident and it's halfway across the country and I can't go, Lord, send an angel to speak to their heart, to watch over them, to guide them. I send angels to my children as they travel on the road. No matter where they're going or what they're doing, I ask the Lord to have angels go with them to keep them safe. And that is an awesome privilege that we have in our desire for our lost loved ones, our family members, or even those that are sick, is to send out when we can't go. And so that's another way to ask the Lord to do something in that person's life without just coming back with the same thing. There are a few prayer items that can make prayer easier. Of course, a Bible, a list, or a notebook. Sometimes people like to write down things either that the Lord has given them in prayer or that they just want to remember from prayer. Something that the Lord has spoke to them, or that maybe that he brought to their minds that they hadn't thought about. It can be wonderful. Again, like I said, prayer doesn't always have to be such a deep mode that you're out of the flesh. We're still human, and on a daily basis, we go before the Lord in that human body. So if you need to jot something down, women, the worst thing the devil can do is bring that grocery list to you right in the middle of your prayer time. Don't be afraid to jot down milk, eggs, cheese, and then go back to your prayer, because you're not weighed down by that anymore. It's written down. I'll remember. Now, Lord, I want to put focus back on you. And it's not just milk, eggs, and cheese, but as a wife or a mother, there are 1,000 things that need to be done in a day, or fees that need to be paid to a school, or a certain person needs to be picked up at a certain time, and it's okay to jot yourself a note so that your mind is able to be focused where it needs to be. I had mentioned keeping your prayer list current. It's great to have a prayer list with you. You can add to or take away from. It's awesome to write down those testimonies of things that you've taken off your prayer list because the prayer's been answered. Bring that to church. I'm sure the pastor would love to hear that. Just as a parent doesn't like a child to come and repeat itself of yesterday's prayer, we should keep things fresh. I had said that. Postcards is a wonderful thing to keep near your prayer area. When the Lord brings Susie or Joe or Bob to your mind, write them a note and let them know that you prayed for them. That can be very uplifting and effective as far as witnessing. To know that I've been thought of is a beautiful thing, especially in prayer. I prayed for you today. You were brought to my mind. And don't send one every Friday to the same person. They're going to know. Write them out when the Lord really brings them to your heart. He's already dealing with them. How many times you hear your pastor say that the Lord draws them, the Lord brings them to the church, and He does. And so when they've been brought to your mind, the Lord's dealing with them, and they need to be remembered regardless of what they're facing. Tissues or handkerchiefs, of course, us women are worse about that. I'm not saying men don't need a hanky, but women are bad about it. I'm sorry, I'm skipping around, but I do that. Yeah. I want to remind you of the temple in the Old Testament. I love going through the Old Testament and reading about the badger skin and the latchets and I'm going to call them poles, I'm sure they were called something else, that framed up the tent. But I just think that is a beautiful thing. The Lord told them what to build, and they built it. And they built it, and it had, even though the outer temple anybody could come into, as it progressed, only one got to go in. As the temple progressed, there was a veil, and only one person got to go in, and he took the load. He took the whole load for everybody. And a beautiful thing happened when my Savior died, is that veil was torn, and I'm allowed now to go into the holiest of holies. And I want to remind you today that it is not a place, as we've said, not to go begrudgingly. It's a place of honor. It's a place of beauty. It's a place of joy and a place of peace. And you're allowed to go in. So when you're in there, enjoy it. Enjoy your time with the Lord. Stay a little while. Don't make yourself stay to the point that you're going to dread getting back there tomorrow. But go ahead and stay. When you've said all you need to say, let it be quiet. And He'll speak to you. Will it be the first time that you are quiet in prayer? Maybe not. Will it be the 5th time you were quiet in prayer that He speaks to you? Maybe not. God knows what we're ready for when we're ready for it. But when He speaks to you, you'll know it. And the more He speaks to you, the more you'll grow, and the more you'll become who He wants you to be. And it's amazing to me when God speaks to me, it's not in biblical thou art, thou, them, and they. It's just today's words. He speaks to me just like I would speak to a friend. And He will teach you and He'll lead you. So don't be afraid to stay a minute longer than you would have stayed. Thank you for your time today. I hope I've taught you something.
Amen. I would dare to say that we're all byproducts of someone else's prayer. I know I'm the byproduct of a praying mom and dad, and I know when I wasn't living right, I know there was a church lady that completely covered underneath my trailer with prayer cloths. She would come and slip and throw one under the underpinning. And when I moved that trailer, it was like a white sea underneath my trailer of prayer cloths of a precious sister in the church that prayed for me when I wasn't living right, when I wasn't doing right. And she was talking of people praying for you. And I was back at my home church last Wednesday night, or the Wednesday night before last, and was able to preach. And there's a young guy there by the name of Eli Walls. And Eli is probably about 10 years old now, I'm not sure, but he was raised by his grandmother and his aunt. And when my leg was broken, I was having some real complications. The young man told me one night as I was going out of the church in the wheelchair, he said, "Your leg's going to get better tonight." And that night, the swelling and the fever broke in my leg, and it went down that very night. Last Wednesday night, I went over and hugged the little boy's neck, and his grandmother says, "He calls your name in that church every night in prayer. Every night he calls your name, and he calls that church's name out in prayer every night." Church, there's a lot of people praying for us. We're the byproduct of a lot of prayers, and I talked to Brother Bob Evans, former pastor of this church, and every day he prays for this church. Sister Marion Wright, I've talked to her. Every day she prays for this church. We are all the byproduct of someone else's prayer, and we need to allow God to lead us to a place in prayer, and to have that time in prayer, because someone else may be tangent upon your prayers, what they need to receive. Let's stand this morning. Thank you, Sister Barry, for such a great job of speaking to us on the subject of prayer today. So good to see everyone out in the house of God.